Now, how do you approach salary negotiations? It's probably one of the most asked questions that we get because people don't know necessarily what they're worth. What their worth could be can be dictated by the market, the time that you're looking, the demand for a practice area. So I'm going to start at the very beginning today because for you to be able to know what salary you should be on and what you can achieve, first of all, we need to go back a step and work out what it is that you're worth. So I'm going to do this video today for lawyers in particular, because that's what I specialise in. We could do a more general video another time, but this is for lawyers. So lawyers, first of all, are generally fee earners. So this video is going to be aimed at people in private practice. In-house, we'll do a separate video about that, but I want to focus on private practice today. Now, long gone are the days of people staying in a job for a very long time. Years ago, go back a decade, 2 decades, people would maybe have 1 or 2 career moves and there'd be a lot more loyalty. Recent data from LinkedIn actually states that in the legal industry, the average tenure of a lawyer now is 2 years, meaning people are moving more than ever before. Why is that? I think part of it is a younger generation. People are much more driven by their values. Gen Z are much more driven by purpose. And people just generally aren't staying in the same job as long. So if we go back firstly to what salary should you be on? Now, as I said, that is going to be dictated by your practice area, the demand for that practice area, and the economic market at that time. The easiest way that I tell candidates firstly to look at this is first of all to understand what their value is. Now, quite simply, a fee earner, a lawyer, is there to generate fees. So the first thing to look at really is the fees generated. So for instance, if you are, let's say, a residential property solicitor and you are billing 200,000, actually, I'm going to say 300,000 to make the maths easier on me as I go through this. The general rule of thumb in the industry is you should be billing a minimum of 3 times your salary. Now, some firms will have 3.5 times salary, some firms will have 4 times salary, but when I'm speaking to a candidate, I'm looking for 3 times salary billings. So the first thing to look at is if your salary isn't reflective of 3 times billings, then that's something to look at, but that isn't the only factor. So in addition to that, we need to get more context to your billings. So I would first of all ask a lawyer what it is, how do they split down their time in terms of 100%? Because a lot of lawyers, especially those in more senior positions, upwards of 5 years PQE, might have other duties. So you might spend 50% of your time fee earning, but if you're spending the other 50% business developing, training juniors, management meetings, you might be responsible for the firm's compliance, then that makes that 300K look very, very different. So I would, through the process of trying to work out a candidate's fitting salary, what I'm trying to get to the bottom of is what is that candidate's potential in the next role. So it goes without saying that when people come on the market for a whole load of different reasons. But, a lot of the time people are coming on the market because they are unhappy with a certain aspect of their role. It might be you feel that you've hit a glass ceiling. It might be that you can't progress. It might be that the firm that you're in isn't giving you the right support and infrastructure to thrive. So what we need to get to the bottom of really to understand what salary you should be on is we need to understand what your full potential is. So to go back to the 300K, if, for instance, you were billing 300K and only 50% of your time is spent fee earning, and the reason I'm using 300K, some of you will be watching this going, hang on a minute, that's a crazy figure for only 50% billing, is so the maths is easy for me on this video. But if you were billing 300K, 50% of your time fee earning, my first natural question through the line of questioning with the candidate about their next role, their aspirations, their ambitions and whatnot, is I would say to the candidate, so if you was fee earning 100% of the time, would it be fair to say it's in the realms of possibility that you could bill 600k? Then what I would start to do is delve down deeper into this 300k to understand things such as what support does the individual have? If someone is billing a lot of money and they're doing a lot of, I don't want to say menial, but more administration-based tasks or things that could be done with good support, then that again is going to have a bearing on the numbers. I also want to be looking at things like where does the work come from? Because if you are introducing a good proportion of the work that you're billing, that is going to make matters look very different, and it also dresses you in a completely different light to if you're just being passed that work. I don't want to use the following label because I think it's overused, but what it's really about is understanding where does the work come from, and if that work is going to potentially follow you if you move to the right firm that, you know, will accommodate that. So with salary, it can be complicated. It's really about firstly working with someone. When you come on the market, if a candidate goes direct to a firm, sometimes that might not always be a great thing because a lot of candidates and individuals aren't going to be aware necessarily of the current demand, how much desire there is for those candidates in the market. And that is one benefit of working with an agency, is actually you know, having insight into that information, because effectively we go around the market every single day talking to firms about demands, workflow, what's on their wish list, what's on their shopping list. So but it goes without saying that you want to use an agent who's good. I always advise candidates to follow their gut feeling, and if you don't feel that someone is necessarily understanding you, what you do, how to sell you and stuff like that, then you've got to follow your gut feeling, because like anything, there's good and there's bad agents. So salary, when it comes to salary, I would look at all of these different factors. So this video today isn't going to necessarily say this is the exact formula to work out your salary, because it's not as black and white as that. Years ago, there was much more rigid salaries. Firms would have a certain salary for one level of PQE, another salary for two. And I remember when I first started in this industry 11 years ago, you would get a table and it would say 1 year PQE this salary, 2 year PQE this salary. Now, whilst that still exists in some of the larger firms from a structural point of view, actually, we're moving quite a lot away from that, where a lot of firms now, especially smaller, mid-sized firms, even some regional heavyweights, are looking at people more as an individual, which I think is a good thing. I don't think that candidates should be paid necessarily exactly the same once you get past a certain level of PQE, because it should be done on individual and merit. So what I would advise, first of all, if you don't want to come to a recruiter like myself, is to look, are you billing 3 times salary? Look at how your time splits down, because time is very important. And a lot of the time, candidates aren't necessarily aware of that until you sort of step back and have a look at things as an overview. And then, you know, you should start to question yourself, why are you looking to leave? What sort of platform do you need moving forward? I advise a lot of candidates to put together a business plan, especially at the senior level, because before we can get to what that person is worth in terms of salary, we need to understand what that person is worth. We need to understand what revenue they're going to bring in, because for all intensive purposes, a fee earner is a mini business in its own right. So once we've kind of gone through all of that mechanism, we can come out, you know, with what that candidate is worth. But the big things that I would always say to junior lawyers in regards to salary is get business developing as soon as you can. Whilst I appreciate some sectors where there might be more institutional clients, perhaps in city firms, that isn't always possible. But if you're working at an SME size firm, there is nothing more valuable that you can do than to start developing relationships and bringing in work yourself. Because if you can have a book of business to take with you, that is going to serve you very well. It might get you partnership a lot quicker than, you know, just being someone's workhorse and you're servicing the work that's coming in. So I hope this video helps. What I would say, if you do want a salary review where we can actually go through the mechanism and give you up-to-date information on what you're worth in the market in real time right now, do get in touch with us and we can go through that. I hope this video has been helpful to show you that it's not just necessarily this is what you're worth. It's about understanding you, your potential, and what is your potential in the next role moving forward.